Welcome to the Alouettes Flightdeck, the podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football. I'm Cliffy D. You can find me on Twitter at Cliffy D.
And I'm Tim Capper. You can find me on Twitter at Repact. It's REPPACT. And this podcast is presented by our good friends over at SportBuff, where if you use the discount code FlightDeck-10 at checkout, you'll earn 10% off your entire orders. Head over to sportbuffshop.com. Well, we didn't kill each other after 3 days in Trois-Rivières. That's a good sign.
Oh, if anything. I mean, listen, I think we established how well we traveled together when we went to Atlantic City to watch the Arena Football League.
Agreed.
And despite like the 2+ year hiccup that is COVID-19, I think we were both jonesing for an honest to goodness football road trip. And even though it didn't go quite as we had hoped and what we had envisioned, I have to say,
our accommodations.
Well, listen, between the accommodations, between the wacky ass weather, between everything that was happening.
Yeah, heat to cold, heat to cool.
Oh, it's like the Katy Perry song. You're hot and you're cold.
Yes.
You know, it's like just
Yes.
You're yes and you're no.
Yes.
Like
you're in and you're out.
Yeah.
You're up and you're down.
Right. No, it was such an interesting weekend in so many respects, but seriously, man, I think we had an amazing time. At least I certainly had an amazing time.
No, I had a good time too. I really did have a good time too. I think the funny thing was, and this is no slight on the city of Trois-Rivières in any way, it's just a matter of what were we going to do during the off time. You know? It's not like it's a Grey Cup where you have something scheduled the entire time, you know, basically the entire time during, this stuff scheduled. Mm-hmm. You know, even us were able to do a behind the scenes test for something that may or may not be coming up very shortly. So,
because we as we said, we had a lot of great envisionments of what we wanted to do for this long weekend that happened, but again, because of the CFL strike 1.0 that came about, a lot of our plans kind of just got put in the trash.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
So we regrouped. We came up with a plan B, and we just said, okay, let's see what we can do to make things work. And I mean, we got to see sort of a lay of the land and try to figure things out. So I think for the most part, the coverage that we were able to provide on the Flight Deck Twitter account and pretty much through all the social medias, I think we did an okay job. I mean, like I said, it wasn't quite how we envisioned it, but I think for the most part, we were able to get the message across. I think people were really appreciative of the fact that we were out there at camp and kind of, sharing things and just finally getting a chance to see the players in a training camp environment for the first time since 2019 is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, it's different than, because in the past, you yourself, I think at one point, I can't remember where camp was being held, but you spent, I think, basically a week at camp. Mm-hmm. I've gone to single day games like, inter-squad game or when they was being held. We went 2 days in a row over the Victoria Day weekend also at Percival Molson. This was slightly different, obviously, but, it's good practice, so to speak, because if, depending on where training camp is going to be in 2023, could be anywhere from Trois-Rivières up to Quebec City. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard me correct. It'll just get, hopefully we'll be able to do things bigger and better,
No, that's it. I think, provided the dust settles and stays settled over the next couple of years, I think now we've kind of got a bit of a blueprint of what we want to do and how we would like to do training camp for not just, the flight deck, but beyond that even, like for all of our potential social media mediums, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I think this weekend kind of gave us some ideas of like, okay, well, you know what? Why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? Could this work? Like we asked a lot of questions like of, the scenarios that were in front of us. We asked a lot of questions of ourselves too. And, it's a learning process, and I'm pretty encouraged with what we've learned, and I'm really eager to put it into use, hopefully next year, regardless of where training camp is going to be.
Yeah.
If it's in Trois-Rivières, then yes, we have a better idea of what's happening, what's doing up there. If they do decide to have training camp back in Montreal, then okay, fine, we adjust to that as well. And as we were told, that is very much a possibility. You could be seeing Montreal Alouettes training camp in 2023 take place in Quebec City. So that would be very interesting as well, because once again, you're throwing yet another wrinkle into the plans. And you know what? Whatever the league or the team decides they want to do for next year, I won't say we will be 100% ready for it, because we don't know what's going to happen. But whatever's going to be presented in front of us, we'll at least have this experience to fall back on and learn from and grow with.
Exactly. It was pretty fitting. I think it was Marc-Olivier Bourrier who said to you, coming to the first day of camp, he goes, what did he say? You always come repping, or something to that effect, when he saw you with your podcast merch on. Is that what he said to you? Something, as I said, I think it was something like that. And
it wasn't Mark, it was Eric Deslauriers.
Oh, sorry, Eric Deslauriers. Eric Deslauriers, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he knows. And big fan of the show too, which we appreciate. I mean, it's really been amazing to me to learn just over the past couple of weeks and months just how many people within the organization are listening to the podcast. And believe me, we appreciate each and every one of you guys listening to us. Like I said, we do this for you. We do this for the fans. So, it's so awesome that you reach out to us and you see us out there working too. So that's great.
Exactly. But yeah, I think it started off really, really well. I mean, first and foremost, I'm going to give props to the Cégep Trois-Rivières and their football team, the Diablos. I mean, that stadium's nice, man. I mean, you and I were trying to come up with an idea of what, at least in the Montreal area, what Cégep has a permanent stadium like that holds about approximately 2,000 people, and we couldn't come up with one, because we know that as far as we know, none of the English Cégeps that play football have that type of thing. Vanier does not. Mm-hmm. Abbott does not. It's John Abbott College.
Right.
Saint Laurent plays, I think, at UDM, if I remember correctly. Andre Grasset, I don't know what Andre Grasset has, but again, I'm just trying to think of them off the top of my head. The ones that have football. It was a gorgeous location. It really, really was, and it's funny how I was so awestruck by those stupid stadium lights.
Yes.
So.
No, yeah. It's definitely a nice little stadium, and what I was really struck by was every camp session that we attended, people that were there from Trois-Rivières, and they were rocking gear from the Diablos, which is the name of the Cégep, the football team. They were representing the Cégep team, just showing up for Alouettes practice, but wearing hoodies or T-shirts, basically repping their hometown team, so to speak, which I thought was really cool. I thought it was a great way to have that representation. Really great for the Cégep too, and at least it had to be great for the Alouettes too, to see that the city that they're partnering with, the people were coming out and supporting them and their training camp endeavors, but still at the same time letting everybody know that we're here to see you guys, but at the same time this is our house, and I got nothing but respect for that. I really thought it was amazing that the community in Trois-Rivières came out in full force for the most part and really supported this endeavor by the Alouettes. For sure.
By the way, did you think it's very apropos that the first day that we're all there, and then we have a weather delay?
Wow. I mean, this was something else. I mean, it was raining on our drive up to Trois-Rivières. Okay, this was expected. And we saw thunderstorm watch. Okay, let's see how that goes. But we pulled into the parking lot, and clear skies. It was a little bit sunny, but you can tell it had rained. But okay, let's go. So we settled into our seats, toweled them off because they were a little wet from I guess there must have been a bit of a downpour there. So towel them off and we're ready to go. Guys are coming out, playing some music on the loudspeakers, getting everybody loose and everything like that. And then you hear
I think you and I saw lightning first off in the distance.
You're right. We did. I did see a flash right away. Like,
Yeah.
oh shoot! Yeah. Oh no! What's the protocol here? And then, sure enough, the coaches basically rounded up the players and told them back to the locker room.
It was even funnier when it occurred when the first the first thunderclap. The entire team. Oh,
yeah, like, oh gosh! Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, again, when it comes to training camp, we've seen all sorts of weather. Not like Winnipeg, where they've gotten snow during their training camp session earlier last week, but we've seen some different weather conditions happening during training camp, and I don't ever recall seeing like a thunderstorm or lightning even at a camp. So this was uncharted territory for, I guess, everybody, really.
Oh, with what Montreal has recently when it comes to the history versus Mother Nature and games being ended prematurely. I was, we were curious to know what the status was going to be. Considering what's funny is at the same time, the Owls had two refs there. And Andre Proulx was there, and I was like, oh, we should have asked him what the current status is with the CFL. Is it still an hour? I mean, would that mean that if there had been more of a delay, who would have gotten the win?
Do training camps get an asterisk?
The Diablos would have gotten the win. But overall, I mean, it was fun. I mean, we got to see the guys, a lot of the guys that we do know on the team. They were, they were genuinely happy to see us there.
Surprised even.
Yeah, got to see, obviously, Joey Alfieri, their new social media guy. It was great seeing him as usual. And by the way, if nobody's ever talked to Joey before, I mean, if you don't know what he looks like, you should get to know what he looks like and talk to him if you can during the games. Because the guy is, I mean, yes, he did work for TSN 690 for all those years, but the dude is really very knowledgeable. And obviously now being a part of the Alouettes franchise and their organization, rather, the dude even has a wealth of more knowledge. So, but then, as I said, the players, it was great to see the reaction, as I said, to that show that we're there to support them. No,
it was excellent. It was great to see actual football action on the field, and then great to talk to these guys afterwards, and just, yeah, you could tell they were excited. They was hyped, and I think there was a sense of relief because let's not forget, like, there was that question in the air, like about strikes, and then finally being told, okay, now you can go on the field. Looks like things are back underway. So you can see there was a bit of that relief, that excitement in them, that like, okay, we're here to work. Let's get to work, and let's play some football. Like that was the general theme, and the tone over the weekend was that they wanted to work, and it was just about getting better every day and improving themselves, and like. You got just to see a taste of what's happening, and there is definitely a lot to be excited about.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for the first time this year, we had the chance to see all of our quarterbacks in action. Got to see who, the players that weren't there, being either suspended or whatnot. We were able to see some of our other running backs go after it. I think for me was one of the interesting things, and it's not really and it's not really a thing that is really published or publicized in any way. And obviously it occurs because it is camp and things can happen. It was interesting, and I'm going to be as vague as possible because I think I owe the players that I saw and to just keep this information as it is, because if the team's not reporting it, then there's no reason. I think at least in my case, I don't think there's any really reason to say who specifically. But it was very interesting to see the players that were nicked up. How they went about their practice session, and they were out there. They were out there rehabbing as best as they could, depending on the situation that they had. Whether it be from the different stretches, whether it be from working the weights, whether it was using the medicine balls or stuff like that. It was. Again, it was a side of camp that I really never really paid attention to. But I thought it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. And if there's a positive to be taken of the fact that some of these, I'll say, more established players were kind of off to the side, it really allowed the young up and comers or the guys that nobody knew about. It gave them their chance to shine, their chance to work with the veterans and show what they can do on a football field. And let's not forget, folks, this is where you find your superstars. You know, like you take a look at the players that you love and the well-known names on this team. At one point, they were that guy that you were going down the depth chart going, who the hell is that guy? Where did he play? Who is he? Huh?
Yeah.
What about so-and-so? Like, you know, insert name of famous player here. Why isn't he practicing? Who the heck is this guy?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Who the heck is this guy? In 2-3 years, he becomes your superstar. He becomes that household name. He's the guy that you just went and bought his jersey at the game last week. Like, that's where it starts, folks. I mean, like, this is what your opportunity. You know what the superstars can do. You know what the established veterans can do. I and hopefully you as well should be more interested in finding out the guys they're signed. Like, well, why did we sign so many running backs? Well, there's probably a reason for that, because you want to see who's available, who's next, who's going to step up when so and so gets injured. This is the time. This is where you find out who's got it and who doesn't got it.
Yeah, that's true. And camp is actually a real camp this year with the you know, the intra squad game and you know, we're praying that there will be preseason games and there'll be, you know, continuance of camp and whatnot. And so, over the 2 days prior to the intra squad game, Cliff, what were some of the things that stood out to you the most? Things that may have impressed you the most, whether it had been a player or how? Because I mean, we've been to camp before, but what were your thoughts on on the first 2 days at camp that we were there?
I mean, we could talk about players, and we certainly will talk about. There was a number of players that really stood out for us, and we were really excited to see, and we're not disappointed in what they were able to bring. But as far as like the overall atmosphere, I think just being in an actual stadium, being able to watch these guys do what they do, and get the opportunities they need to make the moves, like to do what they need to do in order to actually be able to be considered a football player, was excellent. Again, I have no doubt in my mind that last year's training camp, which was abridged and closed off to the public, so we have no idea what kind of training went on there. Have no idea how they were able to prepare, so I mean, you were kind of left wondering just what was happening in camp. Whereas this year, you got to see everything because you know people were allowed to attend and see what was going on. To me, like, I just think that the atmosphere was fantastic. It was what I expected a training camp to be.
Yeah.
Every day, rosters were there for everybody to help themselves to. That way, you can see like, oh, who's number 29? He just made a great play. Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, right. All 3 days. All 3 days that we were there. Yep. You know, props to the Owls for doing that. I will admit.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, because again, like, you go on the website and it's not always updated. So I mean, that was my concern, was not being able to know. Okay, for example, like 2021 draft picks, what numbers were they going to be assigned? Because I want to keep an eye on them. I want to see what they're up to. It may not show on the website, but these depth charts, they're there. They're given to the media, so why wouldn't they be given to anyone else who is attending the training camp sessions? So yeah, just like you, I got to give props to the team for being able to provide those to everyone and anyone who wanted it, because it made things a lot easier. Because yeah, I was referring to it numbers of times just because I wasn't 100% sure, like, or finding out that someone changed their number even. Like, it's like, oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
For example, Trevor Harris, who was wearing 17 last year, he's now wearing his familiar number 7, which I'm sure is going to upset a lot of longtime Alouettes fans for obvious reasons. But hey, listen, numbers are numbers, folks. I mean, like, it's, you know, as long as they're not wearing 13 or 86, it's all good.
Yeah. And for me, I was wondering how he lost the number 1. And I finally figured it out.
Oh.
Yeah. VA's playing again. So Trevor isn't number 1 anymore. He's currently at It's the truth. It's the truth. He is currently number 2.
He is.
It's not a lie. Could be a slight. Could be a slight, but it's not a lie.
No, and I think that's. I think
that joke went over really well. Okay.
This guy from the guy who effectively saved his life on day 1.
Yeah, it's one thing we didn't say. You're right. It's one thing we did forget about. We were coming into the stadium for the very first time, and Cliff's driving, and then, the players are just coming out because they were delayed coming out to the stadium by the sound of it, and there Trevor Harris. It's like, Cliff, push the brake. He is our number 2 best quarterback. So,
I saw him, and I just want acknowledgement that people who think I hate Trevor Harris, I could have ran him over. Could have been an accident, quote unquote, but I didn't do it. So I just want the record to show that I did not hit Trevor Harris with my car.
No, you did not.
I had no desire. I had no desire.
I'm about to say, and no ill will. That's right, no ill will.
None at all.
No,
none at all.
But it's I'm agreeing with you. I mean, it's just looking at the rosters too, and being able to watch guys. And I will admit, it's learning some of these players, stuff like that. I saw, I guess it's something I really didn't get to see because he really wasn't in with the team that long. With VA being hurt and Trevor Harris becoming the number 1 last year, actually being able to see the differences in those two types of those two quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. I said to you multiple times that and other people that were there that I spoke with, that the difference in these two, in Trevor Harris and in Vernon Adams, and how they play and how they throw. I mean, it's completely different, but it gets done. But we saw a lot of what we normally saw with Trevor Harris, at least at the tail end of last year. It did change up a little bit when they started having the mini scrimmages and stuff like that, and then we saw some stuff with the inter-squad game, which we'll get to here in a couple of minutes. But out of everyone that you saw, who impressed you? I know for me, at least during practice, it was, I guess he would be considered, I'm guessing, our number 4 at the moment, Davis Alexander from Portland State, quarterback, that I thought he was playing very, very well during practices. He didn't do so well during the scrimmage itself, but he threw a dime. I mean, it was just like a laser, and I was really impressed. I think he's a shorter quarterback. What is he? It doesn't.
6 feet.
The information they have here under height makes absolutely no sense. Did you notice these numbers?
Well, he's 5'11".
Is that how it reads?
Yes.
Okay, then what's the number? What's the 2 after it?
Well, I'm guessing it's 5'11.2". I mean,
okay, I was really wondering. Yeah, okay. Now it makes more sense to me because it didn't make any sense. It's like, wait a minute. Anyways, yeah, 5'11", but I thought he impressed me. He impressed me quite a bit. Warren Newman, 00. You think he would be a spitting image of who was it?
Ezra Landry.
Yeah, of Ezra Landry. And don't believe that it says he's 5'5".
Yeah, 5'5" was very generous. He's considerably shorter than 5'5".
Yeah. And obviously, we got to see our number 1 draft pick. We got to see, but for me, I think that really stood out. I mean, the running backs did a great job. For me, I mean, and what about you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm definitely with you with Davis Alexander, just in the sense his mechanics were on point. Like his throwing technique, his footwork, everything was clicking. At least in the in the drills that he was doing and just in the mini scrimmages during the regular training camp sessions. The scrimmage game, he was okay. He had like flashes of brilliance, which, it comes to be expected because, again, obviously the attention was going to be on Vernon Adams, Trevor Harris, and Dominique Davis, the guys who have actually played in the league.
Yeah.
So he was basically going to have to settle for table scraps, and that's to be expected. However, he did throw an absolute dime, as you said, like a frozen rope right to Kion Julian Grant to score a touchdown.
Yep.
Absolutely beautiful. And he made quite a few really, really nice throws in camp as well. I mean, this is a guy that I think is definitely going to get a lot of attention. And if we do get a preseason game on Saturday, he's definitely someone who I'm hoping is going to get a lot of reps in that game experience against Hamilton because, like I said, not perfect. There's still a lot to work on. But, I mean, as I said, fundamentally, like he's one of the more mechanically sound quarterbacks that I've seen come up in a while. I'm really curious to see what he can do in an actual game situation. Yep,
I agree with you. Beyond that, Herji Mayala, I mean, wow. Really my first time. I don't pay attention to these guys when they're really not with the Alouettes. I'll know the names, but not really watch them. But I think he did amazing. Somebody that he
was catching just about everything.
Yep, somebody that we really put a spotlight on too was rookie Fabian Guerra. Finally getting that at least that chance because with, as you mentioned on social media, 2 years of camp and because not going to camp because of COVID and stuff like that, and finally getting his choice out, basically out of the Arena League. Obviously, he was very impressive, especially in the scrimmage. Wow.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Every day he was there making just outstanding plays happen, and you could see it. Like he was a workhorse. I mean, he was not just making outstanding plays as a receiver, but like he jumped in at returner.
Yeah,
he was on special teams.
And I was glad to see that too. I mean, everything aside, by the way, in pure transparency here is that I know Fabian from his Arena League days, and I'm just glad to have these guys be able to get the shot. To try to further their career in when it comes to pro football. So,
no, he was a guy that was definitely making the most of it. Like you can tell, and even in speaking with him afterwards, you can tell he was just grateful to have this opportunity. And
exactly.
You knew he was going to make the most of every rep that he was given.
Yeah, and people that know of him and know and actually appreciate what he's doing. I'm sure all players are the same way. Same way how we talk to Vernon, how we talk to Gina, how we talk to our friends on the defensive line and stuff like that. I'm sure they're all the same way. But these rookies that come in, if you have somebody that knows of you, knows what you've been able to do, and if anybody, we've had Fabian on, if I'm not mistaken. Was it year before?
Yeah, in 2020.
Again, we tweeted it out on our Facebook page. What he did on his birthday, of all things, 3 years ago, scoring 6 touchdowns on his birthday. Just go watch, see what the dude can do. But again, he was just one of others that really just stood out. Early on during camp itself that we saw, and then again on scrimmage day. So.
No, that's really what it comes down to, folks, is you get an opportunity, you make the most of it. And no excuses, because, again, he could have easily packed it in. And I'm sure he was frustrated, too, with the lack of no training camp in 2020. 2021, he wasn't with the team either. Tried to get his hand in the spring league, was trying desperately to get back onto a football field any way he could. The Alouettes brought him back late last season, but essentially was just on the practice roster. This was his first true opportunity to show what he can do. And believe me, folks, he made the most of it. If you were at camp, you saw exactly what we saw, and he was outstanding. And if you haven't had a chance to see him yet, just you wait, because believe me, this guy will come as advertised. He is the real deal. My goodness. I was impressed with him before from his Arena days, but just actually seeing him in action, 100% live. Whew, tell you what, folks, be very excited to see Fabian Guerra play for the Alouettes.
Yep. Before we talk about the scrimmage and talk about obviously what could be the pending doom, or what we've been led to believe currently when it comes to the CBA the CBA shenanigans. Just to remind everybody, we are on social media. There are multiple platforms where you can follow us. You can check us out over on Facebook. You can just do a search for Alouettes Flight Deck Pod. Obviously, our main place where you can find all of our archives is over at alouettesflightdeck.ca. You can catch us on Instagram. Just search for Alouettes Flight Deck. Don't forget our merch store. We have a whole bunch of new stuff there that I'm sure you guys will like. Also, YouTube. We're still, it's still out there where we are going to be giving away this free satin jersey to one of the first 100 plus people who actually go and like our YouTube page. Just do a general search for for Alouettes Flight Deck on YouTube, and obviously with Twitter, our main Twitter is at Alouettes FL Deck. And if you want to reach us by email, multiple ways that you can do so. You can reach out to us at alouettespodcast@gmail.com, or tim.capper@alouettesflightdeck.ca, or Cliff over at clifford.pine@alouettesflightdeck.ca. By the way, one thing we didn't mention, I did a quick mention to something else that they did besides giving out the rosters and stuff like that, Cliff, is that for anybody who was there, the Alouettes had also made up I guess a little bit of a treat for fans who were there. They actually had a card that had a promo code for anybody who was there specifically at camp, so that they could have a special deal on tickets for the opener on what is currently supposed to be the opener on June 23rd. And don't have the code with me. You have to go to training camp in order to get it.
Exactly. It's for those that's in the know. So
yeah. But that was a nice little thank you from the Alouettes organization to all the fans that were there. So, so thoughts on the what you said, what you saw pregame, what you saw during, and we'll talk about the scrimmage. So, what are your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Well, when it comes to the intra-squad game or scrimmage, however you want to phrase it, one thing you got to remember is it's as close to the real thing as you're going to get when it comes to lining up against your teammates, because obviously nobody's going to go out there and truck you. Nobody's going to try and make you look stupid or anything like that. Like, all you have to do is just go out and make plays. And I think everything that I've seen so far from this team, there's a lot to be excited about. I mean, VA got off to a bit of a shaky start, but by the end he was slinging it pretty hard and looking pretty good. I mean, like, you could see his awareness and just the way he commands attention. Like, there's no question that he is the leader of this team, and everything goes through him, as it should be, because, listen, he's been through enough. He's been through a lot, and I think there's a little bit of redemption on his mind as well. He did not like how his season ended last year. Mm-hmm. He wants to prove that he's the man. He wants to prove that he belongs as a leader on this football team. And I think his actions in camp, through like the training camp sessions that we saw, and even in this intra-squad game, he was showing the signs of a leader, which we've come to expect out of this guy. So it was great to see. I think the other quarterbacks that were there also brought a lot to the table as well. Dominique Davis just looked very solid. He looked like someone that could easily become the backup, depending on how things go. But he was definitely in control as well, and looking very solid. I mean, like I said, a lot of guys stood up and made plays. As we talked about, Fabian Guerra, just absolutely beautiful touchdown. I believe if you go to the Alouettes Twitter account, you'll see a video of it. Caught a beautiful pass from Trevor Harris. Yeah. And what blew me away more than anything else, Tim, mm-hmm. like, obviously you and I were excited for him because we've known him for a while and we know what he could do. Hearing the fans losing their minds for that touchdown, and then watching him walk back to the huddle and seeing every single person go up and high five him and hug him and just show him love.
Yep.
And you can see like he was grinning from ear to ear. Like you could see the look on his face. Like, yes, finally, finally. Like you feel like the weight just lift off of him. Like everything that was going on over the past couple of years with him, like this validated him. Like you could see it, and you can't help but love that. Like that to me is like someone that wants to be a part of this team, wants to show what he can do in this league.
Yeah, and he actually came up to us because I think he saw us real briefly at the end of the game, but post game, undressed, came over to us, and we were chatting and whatnot. So it's that's the other thing to love about this league. That really is. I mean, for any player just to come up and any guy that so that was pretty cool too.
No, and like I said, guys made plays. I mean, like I said, the real test, of course, will be against an actual opponent, not against your teammates. But there was a lot to like. There's a lot of things that needed to be worked on, but I mean, I think this defense is going to be extremely sound. I think the offense too, once they get clicking, is going to be a force to be reckoned with again. So I mean, like I said, there's definitely a lot to like about this football team. It's just now it's a matter of, okay, we know what they can do against each other, and everybody looks great when you're not going full tilt and you're not trying to kill each other. Let's see what happens when this team is up against actual competition. I'm really excited to see that. I think to me that's good. What's going to be the most incredible thing to see more than anything else is just see how this team, as it sits right now, how they fare up against. Like I said, it'll be hopefully Hamilton this Saturday, next Thursday in Ottawa, or against Ottawa, I should say, at home. It sounds crazy to say that you're excited for a preseason game, but I am excited to see how this group plays in an actual game atmosphere against an actual opponent. So, yes, in that sense, I'm very excited about a preseason game.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I'm 100% on exactly what you said, too. Just if nobody has ever been to an inter-squad game, it's slightly different. I mean, it's a full set of refs. Penalties are called. I love how, and it seems to be working pretty well with the team, Cliff, is that how they've gotten accustomed to staying outside of that 5-yard halo with the recent modification to the no yards penalty rules. I was impressed with that. I don't think any were called. You and I thought maybe one should have been called, but I guess overall, it was just from where we were sitting.
One thing I did notice, though, just during the actual camp sessions, was special teams coach Byron Archambault. He was really preaching on how to, like you can see, like he was again without seeing what they do in the film room. Like you could see him like working individually with certain players and making sure they understood the importance of giving that 5-yard halo, and just the little nuances that we're now going to have to learn as the rules have changed, and how special teams now is going to be even more important than ever. And I was concerned about that because, again, with Jeff Reinbold was supposed to be the special teams coordinator, but then he's not in camp, and now it's Byron Archambault who's going to be. So, again, he did special teams for the Carabin, so he knows of it, but I was actually pleasantly surprised with just how up to speed he was with the current set, and how he was very adamant about making sure that the players really understood their role within the special teams unit.
Yeah, and again, it's not everybody looked as good as we thought they were going to do in the scrimmage itself. Again, I was talking about quarterback Davis Alexander earlier. I think he struggled a little bit. It might have been because of the height itself, but then again, we've had smaller quarterbacks in the CFL before. But then they have thrived. I mean, Doug Flutie. I think what was funny, though, is that you and I, at least myself, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this, but Dominic Davis, which I would currently call, I guess, our number 3, in camp, during the practices, something just seemed a little bit off. He actually looked pretty spot on during the scrimmage itself, so I was pretty impressed with how Dominic Davis played during the scrimmage. So, it would have been VA and Trevor, and then Dominic, and then Davis Alexander. And I really can't comment on Ben Holmes. He got time at the end of the scrimmage, I think, or close to the end of the scrimmage.
Very little, but he got a couple of reps, but not nearly enough to really make a fair assessment on it.
Yeah. But all in all, also just want to give props, to the fans. The place was almost packed. It was almost 2,000 people at the actual scrimmage itself. They did no real intros were done, but there's some intros done by the PA announcer. The team got a standing ovation coming in and leaving. Surprisingly, there was merch thrown out to the fans in the stands, whether it be from the mini footballs to actual caps that were thrown out to the fans. And again, after every game, the guy was there taking pictures. The amount of pictures I think VA took.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, and I think. Again, after not having a training camp for the past 2 years, accessible to fans, like I think these players too kind of wanted to make up for lost time, like to be able to interact with their fans, whether it's taking pictures or signing autographs or even just sitting and chatting for a minute or two about football itself. I mean, it was great, and I'm very thankful we had the chance to chat with the guys that we've known for a while, and like I said, they're just as excited, I think, to see us as we were to see them, and just getting caught up like it was old times. Like it felt good. Yeah. It felt so good to be able to talk with these guys. Just, it's one thing to talk with these guys on social media or even here on the podcast, like in an interview. That's all well and good. But to get the actual face-to-face time in person, I mean, nothing tops that. And being able to do that again was great. I mean, I think it did us all a world of good. I like to think it did them good to sit and talk with us as well. And just share everything. And, I'm very thankful that we had the opportunity to do that again. When you talk about the overall success, as far as I'm concerned, like it was so encouraging to see what it was. Even if it was mostly people from Trois-Rivières, I think working with the city, the Alouettes did, and doing everything they can to make this training camp, like all of this training camp, as successful as possible, is doing things like this. Mm-hmm. And it was incredible. I mean, I think for those 3 days that we were in Trois-Rivières, we got a lot of football in, which obviously does my heart a lot of good. but to be able to be a part of something like this, because I've been to some of these scrimmage games too, and you're lucky if you get 100 fans to show up. And it's the diehards that are going to be there. Like the diehards are going to be there no matter what. But to get the community actually engaged and interested in this event. And we were skeptical about, the fact that it was a holiday Monday evening that you're having the scrimmage game. Like, it was kind of weird, but my God, it worked.
It was almost like a regular game day, dude. It was great.
Yeah. I mean, you had a tailgate. You had...
and that's one thing we didn't mention, but they actually had full concessions.
Yeah.
The boutique actually made a trip. Corey made a trip up from Montreal and brought some merchandise that was being sold. You had a local radio station that was there playing tunes. Exactly. So it's, hey, why not?
No, like I said, I give a lot of credit to the Alouettes and a lot of credit to the city of Trois-Rivières to, go all in on this. And they really made it the spectacle they wanted it to be, and then that it should be. And it was so funny because after we pretty much took the team to task for their mishandling of the whole day one of the strike, or day one of camp technically, which led to the strike. After dropping the ball there, I think they pretty much picked up the ball and scored a touchdown with this past weekend, as far as I'm concerned. Like they redeemed themselves in that sense. So I got to give props to that. Like we'll take them to task when they do things wrong, but you got to give respect and show some props when they do things properly. And this past weekend, things were done properly. And I got to take my hat off. Well, not that I'm a hat guy, but I got to give respect.
You will be soon.
What choice do I have? I got cooked out there.
We both got cooked. I mean, by the way that the sun is at the stadium, folks, is that the sun is from east to west. Mm-hmm. So we got it in the morning, and the left side of my face just got absolutely scorched the first day. So did the left, basically the left side of my body, because it was so damn warm. I mean, 30 degrees, 39 with the humidex. It was just scorching. I guess that, with the way, because the way the sun, how it was setting on Monday at the scrimmage, my face was able to balance out. So you, on the other hand, as I said, get it chilly, you'll still look good, buddy. I can promise you that.
Yeah, my scalp was pretty tender by the end of the weekend. Let me tell you, folks, it was not pretty. And yeah, my face too. Just I got the ultimate farmer's tan going.
I know. I think we all did. I mean, did we go? I said warm, and then it was chilly on Monday for sure. It warmed up a little bit once the sun came out, but then it cooled off again. But hey, welcome to Sprummer. Sprummer? Can we call it Sprummer in Canada? Sprummer. Spring and summer. Sprummer.
Well, I laughed because the expression, like, if you don't like the weather in Alberta, wait 15 minutes. That could have easily been Trois-Rivières this past weekend. You got just about everything but snow.
Okay.
I mean, you got hot, you got cold, you got rain, you got sun. You name it, you got it.
You had power outages.
Yeah, you had trees felled. I mean, my goodness, like you see like tornado warnings and thunderstorm warnings. You're like, wow, this is crazy. And yeah, it made for a very interesting weekend, folks. But you know what? I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Same here. Now, here comes the interesting part. So we're sitting there at scrimmage, and we happen to notice something. I think it was Joey was looking at something, or ended up showing something to Alouette's president Mari Cecchini. And as soon as I saw that, something went off in my head.
Your spidey sense was tingling?
Yes. And checked Twitter, and then sure enough, that's when we found out that the tentative agreement that was reached a week ago, as we were taping this, was rejected
by the Players Association.
Yep.
Yeah. This is while the team was on the field, folks. Like, while this game was going on, we got this news, and we we're looking at each other like, okay, well, let's enjoy this action because we may not get any more for a little bit.
Yeah, and I will admit we spoke with, because they were on the field, and we spoke with Gino Lewis and Vernon Adams after the game, and they were basically there at the same time, and we happened to mention what had happened, and the look, it was just pure shock on their faces, hearing what the result was. Now, this is not knowing how they voted. That's not what I'm trying to get into. But I think it was just, and it wasn't manufactured. It was pure, honest, genuine shock on their faces when they found out that it had been ratified. Yeah,
which leads me to believe that they probably thought it was a good deal and probably voted for it. Again, I'm not saying they did. I'm just saying, I'm just speculating here. But just based on solely on their reaction when we kind of broke the news to them, the general surprise, like the kind of that wait what feeling that they shared with us, like it was, and then it's like, okay, well, what, like, what do we do? And didn't seem to be any panic, didn't seem to be any doom and gloom right away. It was like, okay, well, let's see what happens. And I guess that was their general attitude, like, okay, let's enjoy this, and we'll let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. And then we, obviously the stuff has come out and everybody knows about this, so we're sorry if you've heard this information already. But we heard that obviously that the rookies did not vote in this because they're not full-fledged members. We found out that it was 30% of the union itself, the players within the union, the members did not vote, which was a huge surprise to me. I was like, is there that much apathy, or was there that much
acrimony?
Yeah. And then it's just gone from there. Everybody was saying it, something popped up when it was there was no money put forward for the basically to ratify the ratification bonus. And the big thing, which many people are not really surprised about, because that's what's still being talked about even to now, even with the changes that the CFL has offered to the CFLPA, is the extra naturalized Canadian and that 49% rule when it came to how much these extra Americans listed as Canadians were going to be able to play.
Right, which was the water was kind of muddy on that already, and there seemed to be a sense of, well, we'll figure it out as we go along. And I guess that wasn't good enough for the players, which in a way I can't blame them for, because as you said, like, how do you track something like that?
Yeah.
It makes it very difficult. So, and then you're going to sign that, and it's going to be, ironclad for the next 7 years. In that sense, I can sort of understand why some of the players would be like, I'm not signing off on that.
Which seemed to be the case.
Yep. I mean, if 30% of those eligible to vote did not vote, I mean, they say not voting is also a vote. And I think it was made pretty clear what the thought was on this deal, that even though the bargaining committee had recommended it, the player representatives had, for the most part, seemed to be in agreement with this. The players, I guess, once they got all their information, they made their decision and said, yeah, no, this isn't going to work. Yeah.
And then the whole talk now has come out now. It's going to be the Canadian versus the American players. I don't know if I want to really, I don't really buy into that narrative. You would have to know how somebody voted in order to if that sort of thing is being created. When you first heard that, Cliff, from the insiders, what were your thoughts about that?
I mean, it's definitely interesting. Just it'd be kind of curious to see just exactly who voted for what. I mean, it's easy to assume based on nationality who voted for what. But, on first glance, a lot of people were saying like the CFL had really made a lot of concessions in order to get this thing moving.
Yeah.
But the players, stuck, they're sticking to their guns, which has to be admired as well. But at the same time, also means we may not get football anytime soon, which is also a very bitter pill to swallow for a lot of people as well.
Yeah. And if anybody didn't know that there has been a deadline put forth by the CFL on their quote-unquote final offer. I know we've already heard that twice. Mm-hmm. But their final offer, and it has to be decided upon by Thursday at midnight. So it's Thursday night at midnight. It's just a matter now of, will the CFLPA bring it forth to the players and ask them to vote? We don't know. That's still the current narrative as we are taping this episode. So,
mm-hmm. And the league has basically said too, like, if you don't come up with a better offer, we're gonna we'll start taking back concessions. And if you don't accept this offer too, and provide a better counter offer, then you're getting locked out. No more being fed. No more being housed. Figure your own stuff out.
Yeah, so the CFL modified their offer slightly. They did give them a ratification bonus. I think the numbers were close to two numbers were put out there: 50,000 per team, or 50,000 per team, or it was like 450. I don't remember what it was, but I mean it
was 450,000, which basically meant 50K per team.
There we go. And then there was some clawback on some of the monies that was being given, I think, in the 2029 or 2028 or 2029 season. So there's some slight modifications there where some money was taken away. And obviously the 49% was gone. It's now down to one naturalized Canadian. But again, as we're taping this, again, as I said at the top of the show, Cliff, what a change from topics from 1 week to the next. Holy crap.
Yeah. And, it's fascinating. Like this time last week, Like, we were watching things unfold right before our eyes as we were recording.
Yeah.
And I think we were kind of hoping that, lightning would strike twice. And then, like, as we were recording this current episode, that more stuff would unfold and maybe hopefully things would be good again. But so far, it looks like, I guess they're going to wait till the 11th hour once again to make a decision. And it's interesting, too, because Toronto Argonauts were supposed to fly to Ottawa tomorrow in preparation for their preseason game, and that's been put on hold. Edmonton, too, was supposed to go to Winnipeg. That, too, looks like it's on hold. Like I said, lots of interesting stuff. And,
Yeah, other teams are putting out tweets that they are practicing. I think Herb Zurkowski in today, he had a story tonight where he said that they will be practicing. I saw Ottawa just put out a presser stating, or a statement saying that they will be practicing from 10:30 to, I think it's from 10 to 11:30 or to 12. Sorry, to 12, something like that. That's not a long practice, but anyways, maybe that was already scheduled, something like that. We just want, again, we just want football. We just want a fair deal, and we just want football to be played. We don't want this, the first strike in 50 years to go any farther than it currently has. I mean, we just want to be in stadium, and that's what we told the guys when we saw them on Monday evening after the scrimmage.
Yeah, like you gotta take care of yourselves. You gotta get what's best for you. There's no question about that. But we've also got to be playing football too. Mm-hmm. There's no question about that. I mean, like, just what we saw this weekend, like I said, just it stoked the fire again. You know what I mean? Like, it's that feeling again of being able to watch football. I mean, like, live. There's really nothing like it. And like, I just sincerely hope this was not the last little bit of football that we're going to see for a while. I really want to believe cooler heads will prevail. I want to believe that I want to believe it's going to get figured out, and they're going to come to find some sort of common ground and make this work somehow.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, it's easy to get caught up in the negativity and the what ifs, and what's really the issue at hand here. And I have to admit, it is kind of funny to watch football media types sniping at each other, turning in this, reporting news into a pecker waving contest. But,
I was like, what? I know what you mean. By the way, we are still planning on giving away starting the contest to give away the pair of tickets to the preseason game for the Alouettes. Stay tuned as long as there is a season and everything still goes according to plan. But yeah, we are still planning on giving away these tickets, so stay tuned for more information on that. Mm-hmm. But before we leave, we wanted to at least update everybody on too. There were some interesting roster moves. Off roster, the former Alouettes backup quarterback Shea Patterson was actually released by the USFL's Michigan Panthers. So much for that number one pick.
Whoops.
But there was another person who played in the USFL that is back with the Alouettes, right?
Absolutely. Matt Mengel, who was on the practice roster last year, kicker for the Alouettes, he decided he wanted to try his hand at the USFL, and put up some pretty decent numbers, but ultimately just wasn't up to their liking. So he was shown the door, and lo and behold, Matt is now back with the Alouettes to compete for the either kicker and punt or punter, mm-hmm. or at least have another leg on the roster, which is great. We're definitely happy to have him back in the lineup. Also very happy to note that the Alouettes have repatriated one Antonio Simmons.
No kidding, eh?
Which is incredible, because let's not forget, folks, Antonio Simmons was with the Alouettes last year, defensive end, and he was traded to the Elks for Trevor Harris. And at the time, I was surprised, because this is a young, up-and-coming player who I thought definitely belonged on this team. But obviously, to get something of note, you have to give up something of note. What I find interesting, though, is Simmons didn't obviously stick around. It clearly wasn't of the Chris Jones type, I guess, and which led to him being released. Now he's back in Montreal, and Trevor Harris is still in Montreal at a discounted rate, no less.
Yeah.
So you think about it. Danny Machocha, general manager of the Alouettes, trades a guy to get a guy, keeps the guy that he traded for, gets him at a lower rate, and then gets the original guy that he traded for. So now, like, you got to be impressed. You got to be impressed with how Danny Mac just kind of moves in silence. He makes moves, and everybody laughs because he's got a type, he's got this, but you know what? He makes moves that you're like, holy crap, that's genius. Like, you now have Antonio Simmons, who you gave up initially. He's back in the fold. You still have Trevor Harris, who you traded Simmons for, and you have Harris at a much lower rate. I mean, this is win-win-win all day long, folks. I mean, it's, as I said, Danny Mac is playing chess. Everybody else is playing checkers at this point. Yeah, it's incredible.
Tiddlywinks.
Parcheesi? I don't know.
Also, it was running back Jordan Scarlett. He was added to the active roster today. But what was interesting is that Tavian Feaster from South Carolina, who actually was practiced yesterday, and linebacker Yanis Chilhat, they both were added to the list of suspended players. It's interesting to see what was the reasoning behind Feaster being on the active roster yesterday and practicing, and then being switched over to the suspended list today. Maybe it's something that we don't know about. Maybe it's a family situation. Maybe we don't know. But he's been added to the suspended list. Feaster has
Yeah, and both Feaster and Jordan Scarlett. These were guys that were signed with much fanfare, and we're supposed to be really excited about these potentially explosive running backs being a part of the Alouettes. Now one is, and one may not be. So we'll see how that works out. It's going to be interesting. But one thing I will say about the running back position, though, is there's some talented horses there. I mean, never mind William Stanback. We already know what he can do. We know how amazing he is. Jeshurun Antwi, he had some incredible runs. Taku Lee, the global player from last year's draft, he had an outstanding day on Sunday.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And DeLance Turner, who was with the Ottawa Red Blacks last year, now in camp, he had some pretty outstanding runs as well. So, I mean, like, you think about this backfield, Tim, there is some talent here. There are some dudes on this roster that can really run the rock. And you know what? If whatever's going to happen with Feaster and Scarlett, whatever happens. But listen, there's no shortage of talent already in camp. But if you can add on to that and just like the rich get richer, it's going to make for a very interesting preseason game if we get it on Saturday, because there's a lot of guys on this team that could run this football, and it'll be fun to watch.
Exactly. Speaking of preseason, before we finish up, TSN did announce their preseason schedule. The Alouettes game at home versus the Red Blacks, which is currently scheduled for June 3rd. Friday, June 3rd is at 7 p.m. Also, it will be televised by TSN. The game, which is currently scheduled for this weekend versus Hamilton, is supposed to be broadcast by RDS. And worse, I think if you do want to see the English broadcast, the Tiger Cats are going to be having their own broadcast online through Tiger Cats TV or whatever they're calling it. So just head over to the Tiger Cats website, and they will have the broadcast there. But it will be available both in English and in French for the first game.
Fantastic. And I'll tell you what, folks, seriously, just based on the people we talked about this evening, you may not want to waste a Saturday night, quote unquote, watching a preseason football game. But I'm telling you right now, if you want to see some really outstanding talent just waiting for their chance to shine, you got to tune into this preseason game if it happens, because, like I said, the guys that we mentioned today, they've been balling out, and I'm really excited to actually see them in an actual game atmosphere. It's going to be incredible to see. like I expect these guys really to stand up and make their name heard and make a case to be a full-time member of the Montreal Alouettes, not just practice roster, but to become an actual roster player on this team. And a lot of these guys, as far as I'm concerned, have that opportunity. I think it's really going to come down to what they can do with their preseason opportunities. And it starts this Saturday, or at least it's supposed to start this Saturday. So here's hoping it is. Here's hoping that, as we said, cooler heads will prevail when it comes to this whole collective bargaining agreement and just getting it figured out once and for all and getting these guys on the field so they can actually play an actual football game.
Exactly. And one last thing before we go, from Dan Barnes on social today, literally in the past little bit, he says, hearing that the CFL and the CFLPA have engaged in collective bargaining talks off and on all day, but the CFLPA leadership not yet prepared to take current deal to membership for a vote. Talks will continue in hopes of getting to that point by the CFL imposed deadline of midnight Eastern Thursday.
There you go. So, I mean, the clock is ticking, and I think just like in football in general, clock management is so important. I don't think it's been any more important than it is right now. Like the next 24 or so hours is going to be crucial. So I'm going to keep thinking positive thoughts. I'm going to keep thinking, okay, this has to get done. It's just a matter of maybe some certain T's have to be crossed and certain I's have to be dotted. I really hope that's really all it is. Find a happy medium, find a way to make it work for both the league and its players, whether they're Canadian, American, or other. Find a way to make it work. That's really what it comes down to, because, like I said, we got a taste of that football life again, and I want more. I know you want more. I think everybody wants more. So let's make it happen.
Yep, I agree. Stay tuned to all of our socials for any updates on the what we hope to be as good news, and for the upcoming game this weekend. But on that, we will be back to talk about something. We don't know what yet, but we'll be back next week to talk about something Alouettes related. So for everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.